Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Quarters studio. Got it right that time, Maddie, right?
You did, yeah.
I think
Definitely it didn't take 3 times.
No, it didn't. And also didn't mess up the whole, oh, and this is...
Eddie!
There you go. All right, so this is, it's already a rough start to this. But speaking of rough, Eddie, good transition.
Yeah, man, it's expensive out there.
It is. It's definitely expensive out there. And there are certain cards out there that, well, might be worth it in other circumstances or other formats, or if you're just a Magic investor and don't play with your cards. But they might not be worth it in Commander.
Yep, or at least we're talking to the casual Commander crowd. If you're doing CEDH #1, just go ahead and proxy it. You don't need to spend $600 on a Mox Diamond.
100%.
But if you want to, that's fine too. Not trying to yuck your yum. You do it. You do you. But I know when I first started playing Commander, I would see some of these card prices or, channels or articles saying that this card is so good and it's like $70. And I'm like, man, most of my cards cost $0.25. Is this $70 card really going to make a big enough difference in my deck that it's worth the price? And I didn't really understand the format that much. So I, as a more established player now, I'm speaking to my younger self and telling you that some of these cards, not worth it.
So we're going to send this back in time to the past.
Yeah.
And it's going to completely change the way that you built decks.
Yes, exactly.
Cool. And then you won't be a Simic player. You'll probably be like, I don't know, is it or something?
I don't know. I'm not going to go that far. I'm not going to go that far. It's core to who I am.
Still silly. Value everywhere. So, I mean, there's a lot of different reasons for this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, number one, again, for a more competitive environment, there are different types of cards that are better. But also, just in Commander in general, one of them is very apparent that it's a singleton format.
Yep, singleton format.
You
can have
are,
4 copies of each.
Exactly, you can have 4 copies of each. So the percentage chance of you actually seeing a $70 card that you buy is very low, unless you're just tutor in the
some
deck.
of which are overpriced.
Absolutely. And versus a standard format, let's just say any other format, typically you have 4 cards out of 60, so that's a much higher percentage.
Huge.
Whatever percentage that is, less than 10. Slightly math.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's like 7.5%, somewhere around there. I think I'm gonna go with 7.5%. Final answer. Let me know in the comments below if I'm wrong on that. Just math off the
for
top
any
10.
given card. But yeah, you also draw 7 at the start of the game.
Whatever.
Blah, blah, blah.
Correct.
Stats.
But yes, in Commander, it's 1 out of 99. It's less than 2% chance of actually getting that card
for any given draw.
given draw. So you are not going to get the cards that often. So therefore, is it worth sometimes just dropping a ton of money into something?
Right. Yeah, so we're going to dissect some of the most expensive cards that are legal in Commander. One caveat, the reserved list is a thing.
Because basically you'd probably say nearly all the high reserve list cards that are used would be not worth the price because the price is ridiculous.
It's a supply and demand thing. The supply is not going up. And so they're just expensive.
No, it's a stubbornness thing.
It's also that. So we're going to be talking about cards that are expensive, they're legal in Commander, and they're not on the reserve list. Because they stand a chance of getting reprinted if they eventually drop and become a reasonable priced card. Maybe you want to reconsider in this, these are cards that could foreseeably see a reprint, but at the moment, as of this recording, are, you could spend your money elsewhere and get more bang for your buck.
100%. And some of these you could say, I'm just going to build an entire deck instead of buying this one card.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Yeah, most of these.
Okay, where do you want to start on this list? Because there's, a lot of different cards for a lot of different reasons and why you might not want to spend up on those. Definitely didn't mess up again. And now that the list is organized correctly, where are we starting, Eddie? That I definitely knew where we're going to be starting.
Yeah, Dong Shao, the Tyrant, for the 3 Kingdoms. So it's a 3/3 legend creature. When it comes into play, choose one of your opponent's creatures. That creature deals damage to that opponent equal to its power. So this is 5 mana for a 3/3 with a pretty mediocre effect.
Yep.
The only reason it has a $160 price tag is that it's been printed once.
Yep.
And on a pretty limited print run.
Yes. Portal 3 Kingdoms is, I think that's it, right? That's notorious for
low supply issues.
Yeah.
And it's not on the reserve list, so theoretically they could reprint Dong Shao in any given set where it would fit, and its price would tank. There's other cards that have had that happen. So there's Capture of Jingshao.
Yep.
And then there's 3 Visits.
3 Visits, yep.
So those have been reprinted. They're still moderately expensive, but leagues cheaper than they used to be.
Just because a card is expensive does not mean it necessarily is good for your format.
That's the whole reason for this episode.
Yes.
This is very emblematic of that. I think there's only maybe one other Portal 3 Kingdoms card that I put on here. It's a sorcery, Overwhelming Forces.
I appreciate. Oh goodness, and of course I just scrolled up past that. Goodness gracious, Overwhelming Forces.
Overwhelming
sorcery.
Forces.
There we go. Got
Why
it.
don't you take this one, Mitch?
Okay. Overwhelming Forces is a sorcery for 8 mana. Destroy all of your opponent's creatures. You draw a card for each creature destroyed this way.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good, but also $120 in 8 mana.
And 8 mana and 120. You're It's not good enough to be 8 mana. You can do like Liliana, like Rise of the Dark Realms for that amount of mana.
100%.
There's
there
so
are
many other
game-ending cards up at that amount.
Yeah. If you need a board wipe, there's much better options these
Wrath
days.
of God is half the price.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes out your own
Oh,
creatures.
way more, half the mana value.
Half the mana value is what I meant. Yeah, not half the price.
fraction of the price.
A fraction of the price.
Yeah.
So yes, quite expensive.
Quite good. So Portal 3 Kingdoms, it's just purely a supply thing. If you wait it out long enough, some of these might, drop significantly.
100%. 100%.
So,
do you want me to start just picking?
Yeah, why don't you just pick stuff?
This is mostly your list with different cards in it, but let's talk about Snapcaster Mage. Snapcaster Mage is a card that dominates, or has dominated in the past, certain other formats.
Yep.
I mean, Modern's what comes to mind essentially with. And it was a 2/1 human wizard for 2 mana. Enters the battlefield. Target instant sorcery card in your graveyard gains flashback until end of turn. The flashback costs you to its mana cost. A very, very, very notoriously good card in other formats. In Commander, not so much.
There's even other effects that are on instants and sorceries that do this just as well at a cheaper rate. In other formats, that like 2/1 body could be a good blocker. Your life total is only 20. It's
be
a
able
1v1.
to flash that in, and it's a 1v1. It's a very efficient blocker, very efficient. Like flash it in before attacker.
Yeah, and again, Snapcaster's good. It's only $15, which is not nearly $150. So, if you really like Snapcaster, I don't blame you. It's a good card. There's just alternatives, and unless you're really leaning into the ETB or reanimators type stuff, there's other equivalent options at a much more affordable dollar value.
100%.
So it has a reputation because of other formats. It doesn't translate one for one to Commander.
Yes. I mean, an example kind of with on the other end of the spectrum in Commander could be like a Diluvian Primordial will see more play. Even though it's not giving you access to your cards in your graveyard, it gives you free spells out of your opponent's graveyards. It does cost more, but in Commander, the games are typically slower. Again, we're talking about casual Commander versus that. So, that will give you more.
CEDH, Snapcaster's fine, but it's not. Yeah. It's even dropped out of favor there. So.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. What hasn't dropped out of favor in CEDH is Thaos Oracle.
I thought you were going there.
So Thaos Oracle, it's very well known at this point. It's 2 blue, 1 3. When it enters the battlefield, you do some stuff and then you win the game.
It just basically reads you win the game.
So it's a very, very compact combo in CEDH, and some people play it in casual, but you probably shouldn't. It combos with a couple well-known cards. Demonic Consultation is another one on this list. It's about $17 for a single black. Basically,
get rid of your library.
It gets rid of your library for 1 mana at instant speed, so you can play Thaos Oracle. Great. If that resolves, the ETB goes on the stack. With that on the stack, I cast Demonic Consultation.
Naming a card that's not in your deck.
Yeah.
When this card was made, it was basically no one would ever not name a card not in their deck. And
right. Yeah.
And now it's nope, I choose something outside my color identity. I choose Iona, which is banned.
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah. Or one of my favorites is there's a card in, I think it was Kamigawa, that's called You're Already Dead. That's one of my favorites to name when someone does that.
2 arms! Yeah.
Yes.
Card with
Oh, yeah. So
card with an exclamation point, so you can just yell.
Thaos Oracle, super strong card, totally relevant in CDH, but in casual, we generally don't play towards that kind of compact 2-card combo as much. If that's your whole game plan, then it's probably worth the price tag. But if you're not doing that, it's not really worth it.
And if your game plan is similar to that, we're I want to mill myself and win that way, Lab Maniac is less expensive and
or the
more
Jace,
fair.
Yeah. So Thaos Oracle, cool card, but not for casual as much.
Easy enough. All right, let's go with Ragavan Nimble Pilferer.
Ooh, I love the little monkey.
Let's see if I can remember, again, which ones we've already covered in this episode. Because it's going to be 30 cards, so let's see if we don't double up. 2/1 Monkey Pirate for a single red mana. Deals counter to a player, create a treasure token. Exile the top card of that player's library. Until end of turn, you may cast that card, dash for 1 in a red. So this is first up, it can be a commander, which is spicy, but also just a card in the 99. Yeah, it's not typically worth that $42 investment for the vast majority of commander decks
up there.
That's
half as much as it used to be.
Literally half as much as it used to be. And this is one that, in other formats, very good value. Early on, again, 2 power for 1 mana, get it down, start swinging, taking out 1/10 of someone's life total, and also getting absurd value through it. Great. In Commander, it's okay, you poked me.
Right.
I guess I'm at 38.
And if you don't get it out turn 1 or turn 2, which chances are in a 100-card deck, getting it in your first 7 or 8 cards, not very high.
Nope.
And like if it takes until turn 3 plus,
There
like someone's gonna have a blocker.
There are blockers, and
it's a 2/1 with no
anything can
evasion.
block this. Exactly. Literally just chump block with a 1/1 token, and it is gone.
Yeah, this sees some minor play in CDH for like Timna decks,
Sure.
that like to just play little things that poke people.
Yep.
But yeah, for the most part, it's good for other formats. It's minorly good in CEDH, but for casual, it really loses a lot of steam.
100%.
Yeah.
All right, your pick next.
My pick. All right, let's go. Let's do AEC. AEC kind of surprised me when I put this list together because I was like, they had to have reprinted AEC.
Yeah, you were saying that.
now.
I was like, yeah, of course that. Nope, they haven't.
No, they haven't.
What in the
AEC is a
world?
5/5 serpent. It's kind of like, besides Tatiova, it's like the poster child for Simic, generic, boring value.
Hey, lands. Hey, draw.
It's so boring that even I, as a Simic player, don't, have a deck around it. But it's a 5/5. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. Land ETBs, you draw a card. You do thing, you draw a card. It's like $25 right now.
crazy. I mean, that's because landfall X are quite popular. And
It's a very strong card in
It's
casual.
a very, very strong card in casual. $25 though, it's quite a bit for it.
Yeah, I would say I'm surprised they haven't already, but this is a card that has to be on their radar for a reprint. So I don't think now's the right
when
time
they're like,
to
oh,
go
we
for
really
it.
need to sell this, so let's put in a couple of trash cards and then AEC. And that's how we sell it. There you go.
So
Definitely one up there. Next up, how about Grief? Like these cards, like I'm starting to see a lot of play in other formats. I believe like they're doing very good. And,
I mean, it was printed in Modern Horizons too. So
Yeah.
modern, Horizons. It was
that's
It's like they printed it just for that.
just to shake up a format that shouldn't be shaken up in that way.
But yeah,
probably.
Grief was definitely a player in the modern format. It's since been like nudged around a little bit by balance changes, but it's still a $20 card.
Yep.
And this is like you were saying at the beginning of the episode. This one suffers from the fact that it's target opponent.
Yep.
We play in a multiplayer format where it says each opponent. That's 3 times as good. Grief does not do that.
Yeah, well, and also some of the crazy things that you can do with it too, because that evoke are mostly based on like, oh, I know I have a couple of these in my deck. I also know that I've got ways to like immediately get it back, that kind of thing too, and do some like crazy value. But again, when you're playing a singleton format, unless you build completely around this, you're not gonna be able to get those synergies that you'd be able to get.
Right, and even like a dedicated Turgid deck is going to want to like play more edict effects that makes everyone sacrifice something. Everyone
100%.
discard. Like just targeted discard is
Not
really where it's at.
And it's also just like, hey, ow. Now I'm going to just destroy your life because you maybe discard one
you
card.
are my enemy forever now.
Exactly, yeah. One card gone, you're my enemy forever.
Very easy segue to Thoughtseize.
Thoughtseize. Oh, gosh, I scroll up too much again. I'm sorry, everyone.
1 black sorcery. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. You lose 2 life. Super good in a 1v1 format.
Oh my gosh.
Same reason for Grief. Like you get a whole lot of information.
Yes.
You get rid of their biggest thing. It comes down super early because it's a 1-mana spell. Cannot say enough. Like very strong card.
Super
in other
annoying back
formats.
in Pack Rat days. I remember that. Gosh, in Pack Rat Standard. Oh gosh.
Yeah. So like, again, very strong card. It's over $10. It doesn't scale well to EDH.
Nope.
Discard isn't very looked well upon in casual. So same reason as Grief. Just probably not worth it. There's plenty of other cards that do similar things that scale much better.
Yeah, just having a card that's like everyone discards 1 card. Even if you're going down 1 card, you've got 3 opponents that are each doing the exact same thing. Versus this is like, oh no, I specifically target you. We're both going down 1 card technically because I'm losing, my
You're
thoughts.
taking a card out of your hand.
Taking 1 card out of your hand. So yeah, much better. Let's go with Cruel Tutor.
Cruel Tutor. Yes, this is
$27.23. Then this actually went down because this was reprinted, I think.
It's in the list.
It's in the list. So yeah, I got like a slight reprint, but not really.
Yeah.
Source for 3 mana. Search your deck for any card. Shuffle your deck, put the card on top, but you lose 2 life. So
like a strictly worse vampiric.
Strictly
tutor.
worse vampiric. Strictly worse diabolic. I mean, because it's like 1 more mana than that even too. I mean, it goes on top of your library, obviously, but. Yeah, just a strictly worse tutor, but still is a $27 card. Still a good tutor, but one that you're not like, I'll just get the demonic, not demonic. Yeah,
Demonic is better.
demonic.
Vampiric.
What is diabolic? No, diabolic.
Diabolic
is the 4
is a
mana.
sacrifice.
Diabolic 2. No, which one's the 4 mana? Which one's the
Diabolic?
Liliana whispering in the ear? The names are so similar.
There's so many. Well, and that's one of the problems with this deck, or this card, is that like there's 20 tutors available in the format. And this, like, even if it wasn't expensive, this wouldn't be at the top of that list or in the top 10. Like, there's just so many other options for this effect, and you only have so many slots in your deck.
Yep. There's other more specific tutors too, where like for certain decks out there, another tutor might only cost like a transmute card. Like transmute is just strictly better than this for a deck that's like, oh cool, I just want to go get a card that costs 4. Like I've got Dimir Houseguard in there, cool, that you can't counter. So yeah, there are definitely better tutors out there, and this is more specific. And $27 is a lot.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, your pick.
My pick. Let's go with, how about Rot Hulk?
Rot Hulk.
7 mana value creature. It has menace. It's a 5/5. It has a creature type that matters a lot, and that's zombie, because people love their zombies.
They do. Third or fourth most popular tribe out there, Brian?
When Rot Hulk enters the battlefield, return up to X target zombie cards from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the number of opponents you have. So if you're still in a 4-player game, no one's been eliminated yet. 7 mana, you get 3 zombies that have been put in your graveyard somehow back to the battlefield.
$18.
Pretty strong effect. It's $18.
Yeah.
And that's because it was only printed so far in this like game night sort of
like
deck.
the kind of like
a kind of a party package deck where it had like a bunch of different decks that came with it, and like it each kind of had one card in it that was like a new card.
Only
to get
so much
collectors.
supply too for that.
Yeah, so it's just supply and demand for this card.
Yep.
Like it's a reasonable enough card, but 7 mana is a lot.
100%.
If you're a zombie player, there's hundreds of zombies for you to choose from. The incremental value that you're going to get from the $18 that you spend on this card, not so much. Plus, there was another card that was in the same like party game night thing called Fiendish Duo. That same thing, it was like $30.
Yep.
Hadn't been reprinted. They just reprinted it in a
Just
commander
tanked
set,
value.
and it's like $3.
Yeah.
So definitely, like, these are cards that they're willing to reprint. They've shown that.
I mean, again, like if it is reprinted and the price comes down, then it can definitely be worth it. But like at this point, not so much.
You know, you might spend your $18 somewhere else and get way more bang for your buck on improving your deck.
100%. Next up, let's do Redin 6. So
Yeah.
Planeswalkers are an interesting thing in Commander because though I do not like Planeswalkers too much because I'm an old Commander player, or old Magic player from the day when they didn't exist, and then I came back and they existed. It's like, what is this? Basically, with Planeswalkers in Commander, they are just strictly worse for the most part because you've got 3 opponents who have removal for them at all times because players have creatures they can swing at your Planeswalker. You have to defend against not just 1, but 2 other players to ensure that your Planeswalker stays around, you get value out of it. Redin 6 benefits from being incredibly low to the ground, but in a 1-on-1 format, easier to protect itself, or easier to get actual value out of. +1, return to 1 target land from your graveyard to your hand. -1, 1 damage to any target. -7, get Emil with in-source cards in graveyard have retrace. That 1 damage can typically take out most things that are going to be taking it out early in the game.
Like a Ragavan.
What's that? Ragavan. Yeah, exactly.
Ragavan,
So like early on, low to the ground creatures, this can take out and can stay in play long enough for the player to actually protect it. Again, in other formats. In Commander, it's like, okay, I took out your Ragavan. Other player there's like, okay, I swing my Llanowar Elves at it?
Yeah.
Cool, now it's down to 1. Next player's like, okay, I swing my 1/1 bat token at it. It is gone. Okay, yeah. So again, Planeswalkers just inherently are just worse in Commander.
They're a little fragile. It was printed in a Modern Horizons 1 set, which is definitely a nod to what it was kind of designed for. Certainly there's modern cards that are Commander relevant. But this one, I think, does suffer from the translation from one format to the other. Like if you just... I think you could reliably play it if you just want to return target land card from your graveyard to your hand, but you could play Regrowth for that.
Yeah, there's a lot of other cards that are much more effective than that. You can get cards that get a land out of your graveyard back into play that are probably around that price.
Yeah. So sweet card. I love Redin 6.
Yeah,
but
it's cool. Cool design.
Suffers from the format.
It's a different format. Absolutely. Next pick.
Let's do Final Fortune.
Final Fortune.
Sorcery? Instant.
Instant.
Red. Take another turn after this one. At the end of that turn, you lose the game.
My apologies, everyone. We have
all
got there.
good.
It's at the bottom of the list. I don't want to scroll too far. We got it.
Yeah. So this is one of those that's common in, I think, Obeka decks because it's with the lose the game trigger on the stack, you can just end the turn.
No, I don't.
How about not? How about I don't lose the game?
Because Magic rules.
Yeah. It's about $20. It's a strong card in like Obeka, and it's kind of seeing an uprising in CEDH because those decks can just win the game out of nowhere. So like they see that they're all opponents are shields down, they're like, I'm going to take an extra turn and I'm going to win.
Yeah.
So like in those 2 cases, sure, reasonable card. In all other cases, like if you're not ready to win the game on that turn, which is kind of a time of desperation, like you might have been better served by just having something that's more core to your game plan.
100%.
In the deck. So I think Final Fortune has a very niche purpose, and if you are in that situation, I get it. Makes sense. More power to you. Most other players probably don't need to worry about spending $20 for this card.
No, probably not. All right, next up, let's do another instant with Mind Break Trap. Really cool card.
I love this card.
Instant trap. I've activated my trap card. You can just yell that like Yu-Gi-Oh. Yeah.
Yep, that's worth it for that price.
Exactly.
Alone.
Just do that. This is $76.
Right.
I did not realize. If you'd have shown me this card and be like, guess a price, I'd be like, 5?
Yeah.
10?
It used to be like less than $1.
It's insane. 4 mana in blue. If an opponent casts 3 or more spells this turn, you may pay 0 or they pay its cost. Exile any number of target spells. Oh, okay. So basically, it's kind of stopping a very stormy turn. Essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So Seas Play in CDH, it's a mythic, hasn't been reprinted since its original set, so again, kind of a supply issue. People in CDH have been drawn to this lately because it gets around any cannot be countered effects, which like delighted halfling, blah blah blah, like is a thing. So yeah, it exiles the spell on the stack. So anything that says like can't be countered, don't care. Plus, you get rid of, you basically wait for all the interaction to happen or all the stormy stuff to happen, and with that on the stack, and then you can just blow out,
get everything.
A player.
It's one counter spell for everything.
Yeah, it's not just a single counter. It's number one, a free counter.
Yes,
because it's 0 mana. So like totally a good card.
Yeah,
but totally like unless you're in that CDH.
Yeah,
which if you are, you already know why you're playing it. For everyone else,
if you're in casual, you might not even get to the point where you can cast this for free.
Yeah, it feels pretty bad as a 4 mana value spell. Yeah,
100%. Next pick.
Let's do this one. This card I didn't even know existed.
I need the name. I can't.
Norwood Priestess.
I can't go to it, Eddie, unless you tell me the name. I can't see your screen right now because I set the studio up in this weird way.
I don't think anyone's gonna be like really bummed that they can't play this card because I've never even
heard. $85?
Yep.
What?
It's an elf. People like elves.
Oh my gosh.
2 green for a 1/1 elf on your turn before you attack, and this is not the Oracle text. Let me pull that up super quick.
No, I mean it's just basically probably just
you can tap it to put a green creature from your hand onto the battlefield. Activate only during your turn before attackers are declared.
It's kind of like a specific Elvish Piper essentially, but without the pay.
Which precisely, Elvish Piper exists.
Yeah, Elvish Piper already exists.
There's other Eldritch Evolution.
I don't think Elvish Piper has a restriction for green creatures either.
It doesn't really. Yeah. And there's a few other things that also just put things.
But this card already exists in other forms, some better, some worse, but it is not $86.
Yeah, this was in Portal, another old set.
Gosh.
So yeah, it's just
but not a reserve list card, but one that they're never
not
going to reprint.
When are they going to reprint this?
Well, because it's worded in such a weird way. Like if it was just like tap activate only sorcery speed, then it would be fine. Yeah. But the way this is worded, it's like before your unlikely. Combat phase. Yeah, it's weird.
Yep. So I don't think anyone's going to be super bummed that they can't play Norwood Priestess, but you don't need to worry about it if you are bummed.
Yep.
Let's cruise on over to Sorin, Imperious Bloodlord.
You're just going back and forth different categories.
I'm keeping you on your toes.
I'm just scrolling. So if you see me just looking down this way, it's because I'm trying to scroll to keep up with Eddie.
2 and a black for loyalty, Planeswalker. It has a lot of cool abilities. A lot of people like Vampire Tribal. Sorin and Co. are very popular.
This is $21.
This is $21.
Oh my gosh.
It gives Death Touch lifelink to vampires and it gets other stuff. It can bolt some things and you can put vampires into play. Basically, this was piloted by it wasn't popular at the time, but is now like a very popular deck because it just won the Pro Tour in Chicago, which I got to see, which was pretty neat.
That's cool.
And like Vein Ripper is a big vampire that it can just put into play off that -3.
Yep.
But again, same thing as Redin 6. Cool card. Doesn't translate so well to Commander.
No. Because you have the Vein Ripper, which is a very, very good card.
Good vampire. Yeah.
But like, how often are you going to have that in your hand versus just like, okay, I'm -3. I cheat to play this 2 mana vampire.
Right.
Woo!
Yeah. You always have to think of like opportunity costs. Like, what could have I had in this deck? What could have I just drawn instead of Sorin?
Yep.
And would have that been any better?
Yep. And again, like sustained value, does it have it? Because like, again, you've got 3 opponents. If you immediately get into play -3, it's at 1 loyalty. Someone's going to be able to take it out.
Yeah. And again, because it's popular in another format that's kind of having its, 15 minutes of fame, probably going to drop in price pretty soon if that deck ever rotates out of that format, and it'll be a fraction of its cost.
Absolutely. All right, next up, let's stay in the Planeswalkers. Just don't have to scroll too far right here.
Yep.
Jace the Mind Sculptor. Down to $18.
Yeah.
This used to be like $150.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay. Down to $18. Very affordable now. Almost the same cost as one of my decks. 3 starting ability Jace for 4 mana in blue. Lots of text. Here we go. +2. Top card of another player's target player's library. You may put the card on the bottom of the player's library. 0. Draw 3 cards and put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library in any order. Brainstorm. -1. Bounce a creature. -12. Exile cards from target player's library. Then that player shovels their hand into their library. Basically, just target player loses the game.
Yeah, love it.
So again, suffers from, again, in Commander, you've got multiple people. Even if you do get to that ultimate, you're taking out one player versus just winning the game.
I think another factor for this is like price memory. People remember like, holy cow, this used to be
That's a good
$150. And so then when people get it, they're like, oh, I'm going to hold on to this in case it's expensive again someday. Plus, like, some people are just collectors. You know, they're just like, oh, this is a cool card from Magic's history. It used to be kind of this epic. I think it was the first Planeswalker that had 4 abilities.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think all those factors kind of artificially increase demand.
Yep.
Again, Planeswalker syndrome. It's just not doing what it needs to do. Like, sure, if you're in a Planeswalker deck, it's pretty neat. But outside of that,
100%. Yeah. 100%. Okay, your pick.
Cool. Let's do.
If we can find ones we haven't talked about yet.
Fable of the Mirror Breaker.
All right.
This
Very
was
spicy.
another one that was in that same Sorin deck in Chicago.
What direction is this? Am I going the wrong direction?
It's an enchantment.
There we go. Enchantments.
2 and a
Why
red.
is
It's a
this at the
saga.
bottom? There we go. We got there.
Chapter 1, you make a goblin shaman creature token with whenever this creature attacks, make a treasure. Chapter 2, discard up to 2 cards. If you do, draw that many cards. Chapter 3, exile it, return it to the battlefield transformed. It turns into Reflection of Kiki-Jiki, which is an enchantment creature goblin shaman as a 2/2. It can pay 1 and tap it to create a token that's a copy of another non-legendary creature you control, except it has haste. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So the deck that kind of rose to popularity, and this card has been around before that deck as well. But basically, it's a thing in Modern.
Yep.
It is popular over there. It sees a lot of play. It does pretty cool things. I saw this card spoiled in Kamigawa, and I was like, "Ooh, I want one of those for my Brutaclad deck." And then I saw it was like $30. And I was
You're like,
I can
why?
wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good card. If you happen to crack one in a pack, totally play it or sell it, whatever you want to do. But I think in the Commander format, it's not pulling its weight compared to how it does.
Because the synergies in the singleton format, they can work with it. Again, they have 4 of this, 4 of that, 4 of that. They can just be more consistent with it, I feel like. And this is a card that isn't going to be nearly as consistent in Commander, I feel like.
Yeah. Yep. So
next up, Sword of Fire and Ice.
Ooh, yeah.
Let's talk about the swords. So the swords, it's not like a contentious topic in Commander, but I feel like when you're bringing up just like cards that are vastly better in other formats, I feel like the swords are a pretty obvious one for the most part to like point out and be like, yeah, they're not worth the price in my opinion. Like this is a $40 card.
Yeah.
$40 for Sword of Fire and Ice. 3 cost equipment, equip 2, +2 + 2, pro red, pro blue. Creature deals combat damage to a player, 2 damage to any target creature player, you draw a card.
Yep.
So it's not bad. That is good value. That is good value. But is that like $40 worth of value?
I mean, like, there's some people that like want to have the whole cycle. Like, I
Sure.
want all of the swords of whatever. It's my equipment tribal Voltron deck.
Absolutely.
Like, totally get it.
That's worth it for you. If that's what you want to build, that's worth it for you.
Yeah.
But like just for your typical deck, we're just chucking this in. Not at all. It's circumstantial protection, number one. In like a 1-on-1 format, again, if most of the removal is in these 2 colors, great. You got protection from that. But like in Commander, you got 3 opponents. Chances are they've got something outside of red and blue, and they can deal with either this or that.
Swords to Plowshares is the most played removal spell.
Exactly.
This doesn't stop that.
So there you go. It's just like, and yes, there's other swords that have protection from white, but like 2 damage isn't going to do nearly as much as it does in other formats again because you're taking out small creatures for the most part.
Yep.
And drawing a card, yeah, it's nice, but there's other equipment that do that too.
Oh yeah, for 5 mana
And
you
better.
can draw way more than 1 card a turn.
Exactly. So like overall, like just the swords are overvalued. I still think they're overvalued. Like
It's got like a cool factor.
it's got a cool factor to it,
Yeah.
but like, and we got more swords coming out apparently. But yeah, like it's got a cool factor to it, but like they're just not nearly as good in Commander. They just aren't.
Yeah. I think they're pretty neat, but yeah, they've also shown that they're willing to reprint them. A lot of the swords are sub $40. And I think like Feast and Famine.
That
one's
one's probably
pretty
worth
powerful.
it just because you can untap your lands, which is gross.
Yeah, I think on that note, there are plenty of cards that are over $20 that aren't on the reserved list, like we talked about, that I didn't put in this list because like Mana Crypt, it's a $200 card, but I mean, like, I'm not gonna sit here and say that Mana Crypt isn't gonna improve your deck.
Card, yeah.
Like everyone could benefit from a Mana Crypt. If you have it, great. $200 is a lot, but
quite a bit.
same thing with like Jewel Lotus. There's plenty of cards, that I could name that are for better or worse, like considered like kind of commander staples at the high power.
Smothering Tithe kind of
Smothering Tithe,
Rhystic Study.
Rhystic Study,
But,
but they're not on this list. I recognize they're solid cards. These are cards that are like, they're good, but they're not going to give you that same value that some of those will.
Or they pack a big punch in other formats, but not nearly as much Commander for one reason or another.
Yeah, if you're going to spend $40, sort of Fire and Ice.
Buy a full deck instead.
Yeah, you can do other stuff with $40. That'll 100%. Improve the deck more.
All right, go for it.
We're getting close to the end here,
we
folks. Let's go Tarnished Citadel. We haven't done any lands yet.
Where in the world is that?
A land.
Oh, there we go. Very bottom.
It taps to add 1 colorless mana to your mana pool, or you can tap it to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool and deal 3 damage to you.
Ouch.
$30 card.
Yep.
Good card. Like, I mean, if you are desperate for mana fixing, sure.
Yeah.
But there's so many. They've printed out so many mana cycles that I think, same to the Cruel Tutor argument, like, even if you were proxying this and budget was not a concern, like, there's so many other cards that are in front of this that accomplish the same thing without dealing
lightning
3
bolting
damage
your face
to your
every
face.
single time.
So again, $32 for like pure mana fixing. Even in a 5-color deck, you got better options.
100%. 100%. With that, let's go to Pollut Delta.
Yeah.
So Pollut Delta, the fetch lands, essentially, they're very good.
Yeah.
But
absolutely,
are they worth $34 a piece? I mean, they're not $34.
It really depends on your. Yeah, I kind of put this one in here as emblematic of the whole fetch land cycle. Very strong, nearing like mana crypt levels. Where like I'm not gonna sit here and say that they're not good cards, but like for that price, and then the thing is with the fetches, you also have to like support them with shocks. You have to support them with the surveil lands, with dual lands for them to really shine, the triomes, and 100%. All of those cards. Consequently,
you're
are
adding
also
more and more money to your deck just in the mana base.
You're not just spending, the $30 on the fetch land. You're spending $100 on the whole package.
100%. Well, much more. I mean, on the whole package just for that fetch land, and then the other fetch lands have another whole package for them.
Right. So super strong. If you're optimizing your deck, they should be in there. But they're gonna set you back.
So should the alpha duels then.
Yeah, and you can build a pretty functional mana base without them.
You can build a very functional mana base with mostly basics, even in a 5-color deck, as long as you build your ramp and fixing properly.
Yep.
There you go. All right, your pick next.
Let's do Zank, Paladin Unbroken. And we can
see if I can get to it.
Yep.
Zank. There we go.
4 mana value, 2 white.
This is $40.
This is $40.
Oh my gosh!
So Zank here, I believe. Same with if you want to go to another card, Thembershode.
Yep.
I love these characters. If you've seen the movie, it's a great movie. You should totally watch it. Zank has double strike, or as you control have Exalted. Very simple. Thembershode is a 5/5 dragon. Trample. They nailed the flavor on this one. I have to admit. He deals X damage to each creature without flying, and each player X is the number of mountains you control, and you may exert it. He's a big fella. He needs a minute to.
He gets tired.
These are just in a secret lair. Typically with the secret lairs, they've months. Whenever they get around to it, they'll do a universes within. I believe both of these were like the secret card in their secret lair, so people were not aware that these cards were even going to exist when they were buying them.
Makes it more expensive.
I don't know how I love that FOMO tactic.
Wizards.
It is what it is. So both of these cards are like $40 to $50 because people didn't buy as much of that secret lair as they maybe otherwise would have if they knew these cards were going to exist. People like Exalted, people like Auras, so Zank is popular for that. People like Chonky Dragons. Who doesn't? I do.
Or Dragon decks,
I think eventually these will get reprinted as a Universes Within, and those cards tend to be much more affordable. So
100%.
Fingers crossed they actually do that.
There we go. Next up, let's talk about. Oh goodness, I just missed it. It's going to be Chalice of the Void. Chalice of the Void is a card, $56 still. Sheesh. Artifact for XX. Enters the battlefield, X charge counters on it. When a player casts a spell with the converted mana cost equal to the number of charge counters on it, counter that spell. Great for formats where again it's a 1-on-1, and if you understand what deck they are playing, knowing what mana value to go on, and especially with like other fronts like Modern, most of the mana values are lower to the ground, so you can get this out quite quickly and shut someone out of certain converted mana costs. In Commander, you're just going to upset everyone at miscellaneous points, and they will not be happy with you, and you're not going to shut down nearly as much because Commander isn't as consistent when it comes to the mana value that everyone's casting.
Right, exactly.
So you're just going to be like, great, I can't play my Arbor Elf now. Why'd you do that? Now I'm going to play my 3-mana thing and come after you with it.
Yeah, just doesn't translate. It's a cool card. This was another one that I remember when I was first starting. I'm like, why is this card so expensive? And I didn't have that context to understand that, like, people were very zeroed in on the meta and what they would be facing.
Like if you know you're going to a concerned deck, you probably know the vast majority of cards in that deck.
What cards are going to, stop you from doing your thing or might get you.
Like,
you can...
20 of their cards are at 1 mana. Okay, I paid 2 and I shut down 20 cards in their deck.
Yeah,
first.
Exactly.
Yeah. Next up, your pick.
Yeah, we don't have too many left to go. So. I mean, this is another one kind of approaching mana territory, mana crypt territory, Mana Vault.
Yep.
It's a 1 mana value spell. It doesn't untap during your untap step. It taps to add 3. And you can pay 4 to untap it during your upkeep, so you have to decide then and there.
Yep.
And if it stays tapped on your turns, it deals damage to you.
Ouch.
So it's a ritual.
Yep.
When it comes out, it costs 1. It gets you plus 2 mana on that turn. So like CDH crowds love it.
Yeah. It's like dark ritual, essentially.
Yeah, like Godo. Sure, I get to my Godo faster. I can count to 11. But if you're not in that situation where you're like have some untap effect like Seedborn Muse or Unwinding Clock, or some infinite combo thing,
way to bounce it back to your hand, replay it. Yeah.
And this one isn't reserved list, so they certainly could reprint it. It's it's a good card.
$41.
If you need that ritual effect or have other shenanigans to take advantage of it, sure. But like if you need Mana Vault, you probably have the insight to know like what the card is doing. If you're not using it for a particular purpose, there's better mana rocks.
It's just strictly worse than like a regular mana rock at like 2 mana taps for 1 overtime. Yeah. Like overtime is gonna be worse for a majority of decks out there.
Yep.
Not for the most competitive decks out there that are trying to just win with it.
Yeah, I think we've just got a couple left here.
I think we do. Righteous Fury. We haven't talked about that one yet. Sorcery for 4 white. Destroy tap creatures. For each creature destroyed this way, you gain 2 life. $18. What is this from? What is that star symbol?
Let's see. It was in the starter sets in 1999, and it's
go.
never been printed since.
There you go. Yeah, this is. It's very specific on what it takes out. It's not all that great.
Worse Fumigate.
Yeah, worse Fumigate, essentially.
Yep. So, yeah, it's just a bad card.
It can be potentially one-sided, but yeah, again, it costs 6, and you're going to have similar effects that are less.
Right, yeah. That's all that needs to be said on that one. I don't think anybody's going to be too sad they can't play that card.
Ranger Captain of Eos.
Yep. This is another card that's, it's printed in a modern set, so you know who the target audience was.
Yep. Does
get played in CDH a decent amount. In, basically it has that ability where you can sacrifice it. Your opponents can't cast non-creature spells this turn. Non-creature spells are the ones that they need to watch out for because that's where counter magic is.
Yep.
So basically this is a card where when you're about to win, you can crack the Ranger Captain of Eos, and then you can try to do your combo or win the game, and you don't have to be as concerned with removal.
And it can set you up with something that, again, it gives you a creature that costs 1 or less.
So it does it has 2 effects that CDH players love.
It can set you up for a win, and it can also keep your win, essentially.
Yeah. So if you're not doing one of those things,
yeah, why not? Opposition Agent, I don't think we talked about that one yet. Go ahead and talk about that one.
2 and a black, 3/2 human rogue with flash. You control your opponents while they're searching their libraries. Whenever an opponent is searching their library, you may exile each card they find. You may play those cards for as long as they remain exiled, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast it.
Yeah.
Sweet card.
Yeah.
Like it will $25. Yeah, that's the thing. It will be a thing in Commander because like the lower in power level you go, you're going to be seeing a lot more cultivates. You're going to see a lot more Kadama's reaches. You'll see some like more casual tutor effects. So like totally will be relevant in casual games. Will be super relevant in CDH games. Especially with the flash on there because you can do it in response.
Yep. It's also a lightning rod though for yourself.
Oh yeah.
It is like everyone's like, okay, I'm not tutoring right now, but I'm going to be at some point, and I don't want you to survive. Let's take you out.
Yeah, let's take you out.
Yeah.
So it's a good card. I believe it used to be even a little cheaper than this. I don't remember it being $25, but for whatever reason, and I don't know the context to it, but yeah, it's like a $25 card right now.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised to see this one reprinted eventually. Cool card. Again, just for all the reasons we've mentioned a few times this episode, doesn't quite cut it in Commander.
Not quite.
For that price point.
Yes. Okay, is this the final one?
I think so.
Imperial Seal?
I think so.
All right.
Yeah.
Source for a single black mana, search your library for a card, then shuffle, put that card on top, you lose 2 life. $75. Oof. It's a very good card.
It is a very good card. It's strictly better than that Cruel Tutor we talked about.
This is basically just Vamp Tutor, right? Essentially, except Vamp Tutor is an instant.
Yeah, exactly.
Is Vamp Tutor cheaper than this?
It is. Yeah, Imperial Seal used to be, if I'm thinking correctly, it used to be like $500.
Was that Portal 3 Kingdoms? Is it? Yeah, but it got a reprint.
Yeah, it got a reprint, so it's now only $70.
Yeah.
What a steal.
Wow, it's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
It's a very good card for the right deck out there, but again, like, is it $74 worth?
Right, and you're just gonna, someone's just gonna play an opposition agent anyway, and then you won't get your value anyway.
Or someone's just gonna have like a Ghoul Caller's Bell and play like, okay, everyone mills a card.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's a sweet card. It's very strong. It's higher up than like the Grim Tutors and the Cruel Tutors of the world.
Grim Tutor's the other one I was thinking of. Again, there's so many just like blank word tutor.
Right. Yeah.
Mean word tutor.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just they've reprinted it once. Maybe they'll do it again.
Yeah. We shall.
I think that brings us to a close.
I think it does.
Certainly other expensive cards that probably aren't worth their price for casual Commander.
And again, we skipped the reserve list. So if you're like, what about Gaia's Cradle? What about Alpha Duels? Yes, those. Basically, any reserve list card that sees a decent amount of play, probably not worth its price in Commander. Just because its price is ridiculous.
Oodles of money and it brings you happiness to play these, or you just have it from ages ago.
Do whatever.
More power to you.
Or with your oodles of money, you could buy Eddie Doritos.
Yeah,
I would
love that.
Yeah. They're called Eddie Treats. No, that was the other episode.
That was the other episode.
I put these in order now, or I'm going to screw this up.
Yeah, no, I mean, anyone that sends me Doritos, no matter the episode, is cool by me. Yeah.
Next Magic Fest, there could be people with like bags of Doritos and be like, here, have some Eddie Treats.
I'm for it. I'm no shame here.
And then you should play intentionally, just to be mean, because
I'll play like Don Andres so I can touch other people's decks.
Stealing decks. Yeah, exactly. Like,
oh,
is this? Oh, yeah. Thanks for the Doritos.
Oh, is this a Gaia's Cradle?
Oh my gosh. Let's take that out of the sleeve and just check it out.
How
pretty.
Feel
that texture.
Got a little orangish tint there, though.
Wow. It must be a misprint. Well, again, thank you, Eddie, for coming on today's episode. Thanks for coming with the topic. It's a fascinating topic that, again, if you're just coming to the format from a different format, it's one that, again, like, is just something you might not understand, where it's like, why is this, which is a dominating card in this format, just terrible in Commander, or just not worth the price?
Right. And this is a budget focused channel, and there's like so many, there's just, one of the things I love is like taking these cool cards and finding budget alternatives that might suit your deck and do even better
100%
in your deck for a quarter.
100%. Because again, like, Commander is something you can build such a specific deck because it's not meta dependent, right, for the most part. And so you can do very specific things. And again, there's going to be a specific tutor that is better specifically for your deck than, again, Cruel Tutor or Imperial Seal. Again, like I mentioned, like Dimir Houseguard. If your like main cards in the deck that you want to get to are at 4 mana value, cool. Use a Transmute card like that, which is uncounterable except for a Stifle. So just strictly better than like a Cruel Tutor or Imperial Seal. Yeah. And you can get a little creature in play that you can sacrifice.
It's a wide open format. There's 26,000 cards.
Exactly.
You don't need to kind of narrow your focus to one of these super expensive cards that everyone else is buying and playing. You can kind of make it your own, which is awesome.
100%. Well, thank you again, Eddie. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Comment below with your thoughts. Comment below on any cards that we missed on today's episode that we should have brought up. So, there you go.
Thanks for tuning in.
Oh, exactly. And then, of course, as always, blame Eddie in the comments below. Give Eddie Doritos. And thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.